Welcome back to another episode of Creedcast, the podcast where we talk everything faith, mindset, and self-improvement. And today we're going to be talking about how to get out of a rut. A rut is a term used to describe being in a place where you feel stuck, being in a place where you feel unmotivated and you are unproductive, and it's like a cycle. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because I was in one myself not so long ago, and I feel like in a rut, you really convince yourself that there's no way you can do anything productive, that there's no way you can choose to wake up and make that day the best day you've had so far. It's like a state of mind that sets in that just disables our ability to choose to do any hard work, choose to do anything challenging, choose to even, like, you don't feel motivated to do anything. And a lot of times these can be caused by downward spirals. So maybe you have a routine, a daily routine that you stick to, and because you missed one of those days, now you feel more inclined to miss another day. And then after that, you now take on this identity of somebody who's off the daily routine. It's like you give yourself a break. It's like for athletes, they have the seasons where the tournament is happening and every day they're on their P's and Q's, they're training, they're dieting. But when there's no competition, when it's not competition time, they can cut back on that. They're a little more lax. They can, eat more. Their diet doesn't have to be as strict. So it's like when we are being super productive, we are like the athletes. We know, okay, we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to stick to this routine consistently. These are daily tasks I have to do. But when we're getting into a rut, what happens is, especially for me, I start to say, oh, this is my off season. So I missed one day and my mind switches over to, this is not the tournament time. This is time for me to relax. It's just one more day of relaxing, another day. And then when I'm now in a 5-day spiral of consistent unproductivity and consistently failing to do what I need to do in a day, now I'm in that rut. Now I'm in deep because it's going to be much harder for me to go back to my consistent schedule than it would have been if I had made the decision to go back on the first day. So the first step is acknowledging that you made a mistake and mistakes happen. I was speaking to somebody the other day and he was telling me how if you're trying to do something every day and you do it 9 days out of 10, or let's say 7 days out of 10, so in between those 10 days, you missed 3 days, one at different times. My mind naturally goes to, oh, I've missed 2 days in a row. I'm going to stop doing this out of the whole 10 days. So usually what would happen is I show up day 1. Good. I show up day 2. Good. I don't show up day 3. I don't show up day 4. And now I've quit it. But because you haven't showed up doesn't mean you should continue not showing up. If I continue to show up and now for the rest of that 6 days remaining, I have a 6-day streak. That means that out of the 10 days, I was productive for 8 days. But if my mindset is that I need to show up every single day, and every single day that some mistake happens and I don't show up for myself, then that means it's over. That means I'm going to waste my own time and achieve nothing. Then that means in the end, I'm going to achieve nothing as opposed to achieving an 80% success rate in that task. And it's the same thing with habits. Maybe you're trying to break a bad habit. You're trying to stop eating junk food. You're trying to stop binge eating. You're trying to stop whatever bad habit it may be. And one day you relapse. And then the next day it's a little easier to pick up that thing that you don't want to do. You're sitting idly. Thought comes up into your mind and now you're like, oh, I already did it once. I might as well do it again. But we should remember, the main point here is that we need to actually remember, because we slipped off does not give us the excuse to keep going down that path, because that is how we only dive further deeper into the ruts. So for me, there are 2 ways that I tend to get out of these downward spirals, or these ruts as I'll call them. And the first one is knowing my why. The why is one of the biggest reasons and the biggest things that could motivate you. Some people are motivated by what they're chasing. Some people are motivated by what is chasing them. When you hear the stories of some entrepreneurs, it's literally stories about them as children not having water, not having electricity, not having all these things, and all like issues like poverty or like abusive homes or whatever it may be, that situation was forcing them, chasing them out of where they were and pushing them to move into a place where they did the work, did what they have to do, and chase the goals and dreams so that they could have peace, have comfort, have things that other people naturally have. So that is an instance where something is chasing somebody. And you need to know how you are motivated, because for different people, it's different things. You could have an assignment due when it comes to a deadline, and you are not motivated by the fear of failing that assignment. You are motivated by maybe getting an 80, but some other person, his motivation is, oh, I don't want to get below a 50%. I don't want to fail this class. And that will motivate him to study, do it on time. But for somebody else, they're more inclined to be motivated at passing with a distinction. So understanding yourself and understanding your why will really give you some clarity on how important what you're doing is. Because when I remember my why, if my problem is a diet and the habit I'm relapsing into and the rut I'm getting into is binge eating, I need to think, why am I even trying to change my diet habits at this moment? Is it because I want to have a summer body? And I'm like, oh no, I'm not motivated by that. I want to have good health. If I remember, oh, what does this lead to? It leads to obesity. What does obesity lead to? I'm more prone to certain diseases or certain heart attacks or diabetes or whatever may come with that. And that is now my why. And when I remember the severity of such actions, of my actions, now I'm not just looking at, oh, let me just take a bowl of ice cream. I've done it anyways. No, now I'm looking at that action that I'm going to take against the gravity of the cost, the long-term cost that I'm trying to avoid. So whatever that sickness would be, whatever that unhealthy lifestyle would be, that is what I'm trying to avoid. The next thing that helps get out of a rut is clarity. I was listening to Dan Koe. If you don't know him, he has a YouTube channel and he speaks about self-realization. I don't know if that's the right word, but he makes a lot of content, a lot of valuable content. I'd say you should check out his channel if you have the time. And one thing I remember getting from one of his videos was a lot of the times we don't take action because we don't know what we want. I can say I want to be a YouTuber, I want to be famous, or I want to be a successful entrepreneur. I will have that dream for a year. And the reason why, when I think about the reason why I'm not taking action, I could say to myself, oh, it's because I've just been procrastinating, I've just been putting it off, or maybe I'm just lazy, or maybe it's just who I am. When in reality, it is a lack of clarity in what I want in that situation. So getting clearer on what we actually want, what are our actual goals. When we think of the goals, the first thing I said, when you think of your why, what does that why look like? Paint that picture as clearly as possible. If that means your goal is to lose weight in that situation, what does that look like to me? Do I really want to be going to the gym 5 times a week? No. Maybe what I would enjoy now that I've thought about it clearly is running. And running is something that I love. Running is something that I enjoy, and it's easier for me to do. So every day I go for a 5-kilometer run. And then that is clarity. Now there's less friction between me getting into the activity I need to get to or not. Because now that I'm clearer on what it is that I want exactly and specifically, it's easier for me to maintain the habits, easier for me to even start and get the ball rolling. And as you'll notice with a lot of these things, it's a snowball effect. It's a snowball effect of once you start, you build the momentum, and now it's easier the next day, now it's easier the next day. When I first started exercising, it was so hard for me to get out of bed and go work out. It was such a foreign concept to me. I would dread it the moment the time came. But now, a year down the road, I'm excited to go exercise. I spent maybe even too much time exercising. And it's one of those things where you need to constantly be challenging yourself to do something outside of your comfort zone. If you are not doing anything outside of your comfort zone, then you are too comfortable. When I started off, it was exercising. Exercising was out of my comfort zone because I was not used to doing it. But now that I've been doing it consistently, it's not something that takes a high level of mental discipline for me to do. I get out from bed, I get off whatever I'm doing, I get into the gym, and I exercise. I leave whatever it is I'm doing and I'm excited to exercise. But now something that is out of my comfort zone is now starting this new business. And in this new business, I have to call and try book clients and do cold calls. And then that is outside of my comfort zone. So even though it's not the same thing, it's not related to exercise, in every facet of your life, there should be at least somewhere where you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And take this with a grain of salt, nothing extreme, not to say that you need to go do something outlandish or put yourself at risk or anything. I'm just saying that if you're not pushing yourself, you're way too comfortable. Even with this podcast, it is something that I've been putting off for the longest time. And now that I'm doing it, it is a facet of my life where I'm pushing myself outside of my usual comfort zone, because personally, I am more of a private person. And, when it comes to posting yourself online and putting yourself out there, there's a lot that comes with it. And it's a lot to learn. It's a lot to manage. And it's a lot to there's a lot to take into consideration when it comes to these things. So this is one area where I'm doing it. And at some point, because I'm going to be consistent and because I'm going to be doing this often, this is going to be something that is within my comfort zone, because at that point I would have built up what it takes to have this be my comfort zone. And at that point, I would find something else outside of my comfort zone to push myself, to challenge myself, because every time you do that, you're proving to yourself that you are better than you thought. You're more resilient than you thought. You're stronger than you thought. And it's like that with exercising. Exercising is one of the best habits you can have. It shows up in everywhere else of your life. It's like I can relate so much to it and extract so many principles that I've learned just from exercising. It's like every time I do a rep, let's say I'm doing bicep curls, and I think I'm struggling to get that rep, every time that I successfully, no matter how hard it is, take that dumbbell from the bottom, lift it to the top and put it back down, I'm proving to myself that I'm strong. One rep, I'm proving to myself. And a lot of times, if you don't go out there and prove to yourself that you can be better, that you can show yourself a life that you didn't even know was possible, if you don't try do it, you would never know. So we have to take it upon ourselves to push ourselves, to let you show yourself what you are worth. You can only test what you are made of when you put yourself in the situation that requires that from you. So a lot of the times we are in our comfort zones and we say, of course, I'm not the person who's this or who's doing all these amazing things, but you haven't put yourself in the situation to prove that to yourself. How do you know? And a lot of times our mind works against us. Our mind convinces us to go on binging sprees. Our mind convinces us that it's okay, just quit now. You've already done 5 reps. Like, it's okay, that's enough. But no, we need to take the reins from our mind, because a lot of times if we allow our mind to dictate all that we do, we would never make progress. Sometimes it takes an external person to push you to say, oh, you can do this. It's like you've been working out by yourself this whole time, and now you get a coach and he's like, why have you only been doing 8 reps? You need to be doing 10. And now that's opened up a possibility that I can do 10, because while you were on your own, you would have never thought about that. So the action point from today's episode is find your why. Realize what it is that motivates you and get clarity on what that why is. What does it look like in your situation? Yes, you know you want to start a business, but what business? Yes, you know the solution is exercising, but what form? Is it running? Is it gymnastics? Is it calisthenics? What is it? Get clarity on the actions you need to take. You are capable of much more than you think. So that's it for today's podcast. Hope any of that has been valuable to you. If you have any input, let me know what you think about the podcast. You can rate the episode. You can leave a like on the video and let me know what you think in the comments. Remember, belief is just the beginning.